If you had to be in the friend group, which one would it be?
Trying to balance both of them is kind of hard, but I see people desiring those relationships
Yeah.
because I think it is hard to make friends.
But like if you keep kind of getting further away from the activity or the event, almost it gets harder.
The hard part is sometimes to take it from one level to the next. At the end of the day, it's like, okay, you have to take the leap and you have to be okay with like looking stupid.
Yeah.
Because you might have read a situation wrong.
Thanks for tuning in for a chat room. Again, I'm Aaron, and then this is actually my dad, Tim DeMaster. And we're going to have a conversation about the series that we're doing right now, which is called Book Club. And we just did a book that was called Find Your People by Jenny Allen. It's not one I think that two dudes normally are talking about.
Probably not normally, no.
But I'm excited to talk about it with you, just to like learn from you on relationships and just kind of see what we can kind of learn from the content that was talked about on Sunday, along with just developing better relationships as a whole. So,
Sure.
anyways, give us a little background on who you are, like what you like to do, that type of thing.
Real quick, obviously my name's Tim DeMaster. I've been in the banking industry for a long time, over 25 years now. So that's kind of what I do in my day job. I also do martial arts. I've been doing that for over 20 years, and I do that with my wife.
Going up because you're older.
It does. It keeps climbing. It makes me scarier every time we talk about the years. But I love to do lots of stuff. I mean, we love to travel. We love to go hiking. I personally love to go play golf. I'm a big golfer, so I like to golf a lot when the weather allows.
What's your favorite course here in Fond du Lac?
In Fond du Lac? I don't know. Probably Whispering Springs, but I grew up playing Rolling Meadows. So back when it was just the old Rolling Meadows, because I grew up in Fond du Lac. Yep, that's right. But I don't know. Outdoor stuff. I love doing that stuff. I love family time. Love hanging out with friends, all that stuff.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, I'm excited to chat more about some of that as we talk about friendships and things like that. But on Sunday, we talked about your favorite TV show or TV show like sitcoms that have friend groups. Is there one that came to mind for you? Like if you had to be in the friend group, which one would it be?
Strangely, my friend group would probably be, there was two different ones that kind of crossed my mind, and either be Seinfeld because the people are just bouncing in and out of your life so much, or probably The Office.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of my friends are cynical and they like to give you a hard time and still be your friend at the same time. So I think those are the ones that probably resonated with me.
Yeah. I think I'm actually sticking with Parks and Rec. I think I really do want like a Leslie as a friend that would just like plan everything and be goofy and positive at the same time. So.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
All right, so one of the stats I shared on Sunday was like that 60% of us are lonely is kind of like what a lot of the different research out there is sharing. Do you think that's true? Like, and why do you think that is the case these days? Like, again, kind of your thoughts on this.
I do think it's true. I think there are a lot of people that are lonely. I think people are seeking friendships, but lots of times they don't know how to find them. And oftentimes they'll use different things to try to connect. I think work is one that they try to do that. And I see that like in my job that there's a lot of people that go well beyond just being coworkers to being friends.
Yeah. Because you lead a lot of lenders, right?
I do. I lead a group of lenders at the bank. But then we have, where I work, was about 100 employees, and we have a lot of activity things we do as like an organization, and people extend that out and they have a good time with each other. Be honest with you, I enjoy the people I work with, but I have a bunch of other friends outside of work too. So trying to balance both of them is kind of hard, but I see people desiring those relationships because I think it is hard to make friends. Yeah. And the older you get, I think it's even harder sometimes.
Yeah. I was talking to someone on Sunday and they were saying they were in college and they're like, yeah, it's not really that hard for me to develop friends. And I know in college it is hard for some, but it's like in college for a lot of people, it's like you're around people all the time, the same age, doing things. There's all kinds of opportunities. But as you get older, it's like less and less.
Correct.
You keep getting further and further removed, it seems.
Totally
so
agree.
It sounds like even it keeps going.
Yeah, and I'd agree with you. In college, you're around people all day, every day.
Yeah.
Now it's like life pulls you into a lot of different areas, and it's harder to connect with people.
Well, and it was interesting too, because some of the stats on it too was like life expectancy extends if you have relationships, And so it's like at the older you get, the further away you are getting from those. So it's like this
Can be.
counterintuitive thing. So it's like
Yep.
almost it's beneficial or important to make sure you do have
For
friends
sure.
or are intentional
For sure.
about that.
Yep.
Uh, would you say like is that easy or hard for you to connect with people? Are you introverted, extroverted? Like,
I would say I'm definitely more on the extroverted side.
yeah,
It's not super difficult for me to connect with people initially. I think where I have a larger challenge getting in depth
yeah,
with deeper relationships with people. I think that can be hard sometimes.
mm-hmm.
I have a lot of acquaintances, so
Yeah.
I know lots of people. I have a smaller bucket of friends,
Yeah,
and then I have even a smaller bucket of
core
really
people,
core friends. And um, so I think it's hard. I think the hard part is sometimes to take it from one level to the next
yeah,
because it does take effort. And I
yeah,
think that, anytime you're talking about friendships, I think it's how much you want to put in yourself, and if somebody else is going to put in, you both have to put kind of the same equal amount,
yeah.
and that I find challenging.
Okay, so I want to kind of cover a lot of the things you just talked about. So you talked about being an extrovert, and we've talked before, like
Mm-hmm.
you kind of experienced even the like you've had to have the turn it on, and people are like expecting you to
Absolutely.
turn it on
Yeah.
because you are more extroverted.
Yep.
That's still draining for you, right?
It's
Or like,
wildly draining.
yeah,
I think I'm one of the things because I'm generally a pretty positive person. So my example's always like when I go to work and it's like the people are like, "How you doing?" I'd be, "It's awesome. I'm doing awesome." And if I say anything but awesome stuff, I'm like, "It's okay." People are like, "What's wrong?"
yeah.
It's like, well, nothing's wrong. I'm just not
It's
awesome
just
today.
not awesome.
Yeah, sometimes you can just be like, okay.
Yeah,
So I think, but yet I'm somebody that likes to respond to people. I'm never just going to ignore them.
yeah,
A good example for me at work with friendships is my office, where it's located, is kind of right by the kitchen in our building,
yeah,
which means people walk past my office like 30 times a day, getting food and drinks and whatever. And every time it's like, I don't even let the awkward pass go by because it's like, for me, I'm going to
yeah,
engage, you make eye contact. I'm not just going to ignore people. I think that's my nature. So,
yeah. Yeah, no, I would say I'm introverted and extrovert. I'm like a mix of the two. Like I can turn it on, but then I really like to
mm-hmm.
be reserved at the same time. But like it is draining.
Yes.
And so like even I think it's important for people to know like because I keep hearing this like as an extrovert you are still tired, at times of like turning it
100%.
on. There is like almost this expectation, and it's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot sometimes.
And I will say, the older you get, you get way more tired. I would
Okay.
say when I was younger,
Yeah.
I could keep going forever and I didn't
Yeah.
feel that as much. I think my energy was stronger. As I've gotten older, I think definitely run out of gas a little earlier for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Okay, and then you also mentioned like kind of the buckets of groups of
Mm-hmm.
people, and like kind of exactly what we talked about on Sunday. It's like you should have like you have a ton of
Mm-hmm.
acquaintances, and then keep funneling, and to get to those core. And but there's that push pull, and that's hard.
It is.
Because like there's the balance of like being the extrovert, making conversation,
Mm-hmm.
but then it's like you have to be intentional almost like, and that's the hard part, right?
I think what happens is people fluctuate between buckets throughout life. And I think over the years, I've had people that have been in that really close relationship bucket, and then they've probably moved out into just being friends. And that doesn't mean I can't reconnect with them or that we don't
Yeah.
aren't still friends, but definitely, and even through church and
Yeah.
things like that, depending on what you're doing at the time, the relationships change.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to kind of like how much effort you want to put into
Yeah.
it, because if you want to maintain that,
Yeah.
it changes too.
Well, I guess just even like kind of thinking back, like you guys now remembering even some of what you
Mm-hmm.
guys had, you had friends that you like, it seemed again from afar that you connected with, like you did youth ministry,
Mm-hmm.
and then like you served with like all those people, and like you ended up hanging out with those
Correct.
people, or you did your life group or trip, and you end up hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
But like if you keep kind of getting further away from the activity or the event, almost it gets harder.
It's really hard to maintain.
Yeah.
And I would say that's true of every friendship. For church stuff, for sure. I think, I mean, we've done life groups for
Softball, golf, all
25
that, yeah.
years, or, you know what I mean? Correct. Or even that, yeah, playing softball or whether you golf or whatever it is. Maybe there's a group you play with for a period of time, and then you stop. Well, you just don't see those people naturally
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
And unless you're really intentional about connecting with them, it's really hard.
Yeah. Okay. All right, kind of shifting gears a little bit. So I'm going to read a verse or two from John 15. It's 12 and 13. And it says, "My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends." And like we talked about, like how we need to lay down some of our life
Hmm.
for our friends per se, like as in giving up some of like our priorities, our things in our mind per
Hmm.
se, of like I gotta get this done, or this is what's important to me today to to accomplish or whatever it might be. And so like that's giving up some of our life. Do you think that's a big part of like why people are lonely? Is they're not willing to do that, or like what do you think of that? Like,
I do. I think that everything you just said is exactly why friendship is hard,
yeah,
and why it's hard to get deep friendships with people is because it does involve effort. It involves you being unselfish, and
yeah,
those things are tough for
yeah,
me, for anybody. And
yeah,
I think, and not only can, even if I'm unselfish, the person that I'm trying to connect with probably has to do the same for us to get really deep.
yeah,
And I think that's where it's probably a bigger challenge.
yeah. Well, one thing I've seen with like you guys specifically is like I talked a lot about like you want friends that are close
Yep,
because you're going to see them
we
more
do.
often and frequent. And you guys, it seems almost even at your life stage, your like inconvenience that you're willing to get past is the drive. You're willing to
Hmm.
drive.
Oh, for sure.
You know,
That's
it's like
the
you're like
least of my worries.
that's not a
Yeah,
big deal to you. But like
correct.
sometimes that's really hard. Like I'm in a stage right now where that's like, oh,
Yeah,
everybody's got to get in the car and
yeah,
like $3, like three car seats and like,
yeah,
but like that is like some of me giving up my life that like sometimes to
yeah,
drive that I'm like, let's just stay home tonight. Where I know that
yeah.
you guys a lot of times are like, we'll drive,
Hmm.
sure, and that's like giving up your time, your some of your convenience per se
It's
to make
true.
that
I've
happen.
never really thought about that
Yeah.
way because
Well,
for
good.
me, yeah, from a perspective of I haven't, just because I think that's been part of our life for a long
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
about driving, and we've never really had a neighborhood
Yeah.
per se of where like we're walking to other people's house.
Yeah.
That's never really been a portion of our life where we had a bunch of friends in a neighborhood or
Yeah.
something. So we've always had to drive somewhere. Um, so that hasn't been something
Hmm.
that we've really been concerned about. But I think there's lots of other things. I think
Yeah.
there's lots of other things like not always having the same interest and things like that, and
Yeah.
trying something different sometimes. That's where I struggle. My
Yeah.
wife is far better at that.
Yeah.
She'll try anything.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, well, I don't know if I'll like that. And she's like, why don't you try? So I think
Sure.
she helps me that way.
Yeah. That makes sense. So giving up some of like your convenience per se, or
Hmm.
like to be more willing to
Hmm.
go to people and all of that. Um, what would be like something that would be a hard like like if someone was like, hey, you free to hang out today, or
Right.
like they stop over and they're like, would you mind helping me real quick, and you're like, a lot of times that you guys are very sacrificial, you'd be like, yes, like but like
Hmm.
what's something you're like, that's a hard no, I got something going on
I,
today. Is
you
it
know,
golfing, is it like
I think there's some, there are definitely certain things that would be much harder to give up than
hmm,
others. And a lot of it's just spending time with family
yeah,
traditional things, I think sometimes. But I think it's more about probably what it's going to be.
yeah,
It's interesting, like hearing that question, what comes to my mind is like, there are things that people would want to give me a hard no and
yeah,
even asking me to do.
yeah,
Like, come over and help me with this building project. I would be like, you don't want me to do that. I'm probably just going to be more work for you as I'm coming
yeah,
around. I could move some stuff around or whatever, but to actually like put
do the
something
work,
together and
not your
you're
skill
going to
set.
instruct me, probably not my skill set,
Yeah,
and probably not going to be better friends
yeah.
afterwards. You know what I mean? So,
I don't think any dude is better friend after a project together, but
well, that's
anyways, yeah,
probably true too,
yeah,
but I'd be way
yeah,
worse. But beyond that, I mean, I think you'd always consider something from somebody
hmm,
if they truly need you. But I will say that if they're your really good friend,
yeah,
they'd also understand if you had something that was really
yeah, that's
important to you and
good.
you couldn't make it. So I think it works both ways.
That's good. I think there's like a balance. Like there is some times where it's like it's inappropriate for someone to inconvenience you. It's like Christmas Day, your family's over or whatever. Like but if it's an emergency, yeah,
Yeah,
there's that other balance too. But I think it's definitely like when you know your friend, you know when it's appropriate to inconvenience and
correct.
not. So
And
yeah,
if you have a good friendship with somebody, it's always okay to ask, but it
Yeah.
should always be okay to
Yeah.
say no too.
Yeah.
I would say that it shouldn't be conditional. I
Yeah.
think that's what it comes down to.
Okay, so let's get kind of like to some of the practical stuff from Sunday. So like in general, like we talked about relationships and just being intentional about them.
Mhm.
Like you shared a little bit on this. Would you say you're good at relationships? Like are you intentional with them? Where do you rank
I
in
think
that?
I'm middle of the road.
Okay.
Would probably be where I'd put them. I think I'm good off the start, and I think I struggle in the middle.
Okay. Okay. I would say I'm similar-ish. Like I'm willing to go deeper, but
Mhm.
it's there has to be and I think a lot of times I do go first actually, but I don't get a lot of reciprocation. And that
Oh, I'm
that
with
is
you
really
big time on
hard.
that
So it's
one.
really
Yep.
hard to like keep going
Hmm.
because wait, you didn't kind of respond, or like it's
Hmm.
kind of just awkward or whatever. So I would say I'm similar. Like I can get to the middle of like deeper
Hmm.
relationship, but to get really deep is really tough.
I'm okay starting to talk about it. I'm the king of not being okay with
Yeah,
awkward silence. So
yeah,
it's like I can
yeah,
last about 2 seconds, and then after that, it's like, you know what? Let me share
yeah,
first. But I think it's sometimes hard to get into that
yeah,
deeper level with somebody and knowing that maybe this is a safe zone for somebody to deal with.
yeah. And you guys kind of like you guys have done some of that at
Hmm.
church even too, where you've created like the safe space that's kind of intentional for that. Like
Hmm.
you guys have led different trips from
Yep.
church.
Yep.
Um, Years ago at Ripon, and then now a
Yep.
couple times here at Centerpoint. For couples, like, have you seen like relationships develop? Like, do you
We
really
have.
believe in those trips? Like, do you think they're like
I do believe
beneficial?
in them. I do believe in the
Like, so
trips
it's like
and
it's a couples trip usually to a destination. Like, explain
correct.
it a
We've
little
done
bit.
over the years now, I guess, with couples, we've done 4 different trips where we've gone to someplace that challenges you.
Sure.
Beautiful place, but challenges you at the same time. So we've gone out west to Colorado, Washington,
Yeah.
Utah, and each time it's been different. It's all been different groups of people at different stages in our life too. But when we've done that, we've always had very clear goals about getting closer with God, closer to God, getting closer to your
Yeah.
spouse, and then building friendships and
Yeah.
relationships. Um, and I think the top two have almost always worked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think we've definitely had a focus on closer to God, and we've definitely come out of it where you have great relationships because when you spend somewhere between 5 and 7 days with
Yeah.
a group of people every waking minute, you're gonna like connect and
Yeah.
you're going to get deeper, and that's really worked. The hard part is maintaining it when you're coming
Yeah.
back because that is a choice.
Yeah.
They don't really have when we're on the trip, you don't really have a choice whether to be part of the stuff or
Yeah.
not. You just are.
Yeah.
In fact, we make that like,
Yeah.
hey, we're doing it all together. When you come back, real life comes back at you,
Yeah.
and it's up to us, them, everybody, but
Yeah.
it's interactive to keep those relationships going, and that can be tough.
Yeah. Yeah. And you guys are very like you're like kind of starters as
Hmm.
people. Like so that's probably the easy role for you.
It
Like is
is.
like where it's like we'll get it going, but someone please kind of take the baton
Yes.
and that's like kind of the hope is like someone else is kind of
Correct.
hey, I'll lead this next time, or I'll get the group to, and
Exactly.
like so you kind of need that push pull. I
It is.
imagine,
That's the exhaustion factor
Yeah.
because you do get to a point where it's like somebody else needs to step up and
Yeah.
like offer something, and it doesn't matter if it's a group setting of
Yeah.
friends or if it's a one-on-one position.
Yeah.
I think that's the same. Me and my wife talk about that often. That it's like I can't always be the one like
Yeah.
inviting or
Yeah.
whatever it would be. So, and I'm not saying I am in every
Yeah.
relationship, but that's and I
That's
get it. Like if somebody else is inviting me and I'm saying no,
yeah.
eventually they're just gonna say like, forget it. I'm not
Part
gonna
of the
invite
push
them
pull.
anymore.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I love those trips because like I think that's where you're forced together, and it's in an easy way. I think there's like a stat or something like that. You need like 200 hours with someone,
Mm-hmm.
to develop a friendship or something. It's something
Probably
like
something.
that.
Yep.
And so like that is like in your face. Here, let's get 50 hours in, or like 60, or
Correct.
like
Yeah.
right away. Like let's just
Yep.
like get a bunch so that we can get the relationship going. But it still needs to keep going from there.
Agreed.
Okay, so shifting gears a little bit now, kind of back to the book, which is like find your people. There were kind of like 4 big ideas that I
Mm-hmm.
talked about on Sunday. They were like become the friend you're looking for,
Mm-hmm.
you making the move, you're going to them, You already have people around you that you can develop these relationships with. They're the people that you're seeing frequently. And then the last one is like letting yourself be known, like letting yourself actually kind of go to that deeper level. Do you suck at any of these in particular? You, like, is it?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I'm
I
not
probably
great at all
struggle.
of them either. But,
No, I think I probably struggle the most at making the move.
okay.
I think I have lots of great intentions lots of times, and I
Yeah.
see opportunities, but I don't always take hold of them
Yeah.
and go after it and be like, hey, this was the moment. I had this chance to talk to this person or set this up this evening or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I don't always take those opportunities when they're there.
Yeah.
And I feel like God actually puts those in my way. And I just like, and then, a week later I'll be like, well, I haven't had any chances. Well, I did.
Yeah.
I think I miss out on that one. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so let's talk about each of them just like a little bit. We'll go a little deeper on all of them. So like the first one, what do you look for in a friend? How do you become that again? Because you want to become what you're looking for. Like what do you think you're looking for? Like what is a good friend in your mind?
Honestly, I just need somebody to be real with me.
Yeah.
I am not into fake people at
Like
all.
I'm struggling with this, or
Yeah,
I'm just not great at this, or
Yeah, I'm not into fake people. If they ask me my opinion and then they really don't want my opinion and they're just asking me to be nice, that doesn't really work for me. So I think being able to, and a common interest, all those different things like that, certainly things that I like, I think, overall, they can be completely polar opposite of me.
Yeah.
And as long as they're real and they want to have a real conversation about something, I'm in.
Yeah. Where, and I think like what I'm hearing, it's like, let's not just like talk the talk, but like you share and I share, and it's like when you ask me a question, you actually want to know your answer. You're not just like making conversation.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I would say like that's similar for me. For like obviously common interest is important with friends.
For sure.
But I think someone that's like wants to talk about more than sports. Like it's really easy to talk about vacation, sports, weather.
Yep.
Food, like those are like
which the truth is like that stuff's talking about that stuff's fine too, but it can only go so far.
Correct. That's fun. That's fun for the first 30 minutes, but then it's like, are we actually going to be friends? Like where it's like we're calling each other up for something more than that. Kind of need to move past that then. So like talking about like, for me it's parenting, talking about how do you be a good husband, like it's talking about, I like talking about like biking or whatever project type of thing too, but it's like I want people that are going to sharpen like you as a person, and not only that but as someone in the faith as well. They're going to sharpen you in faith but sharpen you as a person. Like I want to be a better leader and I want this person to kind of help me be that, or I want to be a better like a more patient person. I'm hoping so it's like kind of, I think looking for some of that, I would say.
I'd say like bring something to the equation. You know, to like bring something to the relationship, whether I am or they are. Bring something to it besides just.
In the book, she talks about like how like of your 3 to 5 or whatever, there's different types of, like you shouldn't necessarily have like all of the same type of people that are like your 3 to 5 like close friends. It's like sometimes one of them's like the encourager. One of them is just like the fun. One of them's like, like, so it's like kind of finding people that bring something to the table.
And I think that is real. I think it is real that you have people that, I have guys I just like to golf with, or I have guys like I just want to talk about sports with. I have other people that I love talking about business stuff and things like that, or leadership or whatever it would be. And other people are like investing into each other's lives. So it's a little bit of all. Yeah.
All right. So then the second one is you go first. So like, how do you make the move or initiate it? You said this is like a hard one for you.
I think it's challenging.
What have you seen work or not work? Like,
well, I don't know if I have any techniques. I think you just have to do it. You know what I mean? It's like, I think at the end of the day, it's like, okay, you have to take the leap and you have to be okay with like looking stupid.
Yeah.
Because you might have read a situation wrong. It's like, it's almost like you're dating or something, being like, oh, I got turned down. I asked him out for lunch.
Well, I think what you're saying is actually a really important thing. You have to read kind of the situation.
Yeah.
So it's kind of assessing, like it sounds weird, but you're assessing like, does this conversation seem to be going well? Like, and we like, I've reached out and said, hey, how are you? And like, we're having a natural conversation. Like maybe this person could be a friend, But it started with starting the conversation, and then from there, like I've seen you guys do this a couple times, where it's like we should go have dinner sometime,
Yep.
like you and your spouse or
Correct.
whatever, but that's not easy per
No.
se. Like sometimes that's a risk of like, yeah, let me get back to
Correct.
you.
And that's my struggle, is to think of the insecurity side of it, being like, I don't know if I should ask, and it's helpful to have, like, I'll say my spouse who is okay with just saying it.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we go out to dinner?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it's something I need to work on and I want to be better at, just for individual relationships.
Yeah. Okay, so then the third one is you have people around you already. Do you agree there's people around you that like could be good friendships for you?
Sure.
And then like have you connected with them? Like, or how do you start to develop that? Like,
I think we have a lot of people around us, and I have a lot of people around me that good friendships that I already have and that I could develop more. It really comes back. I hate to go back to the last one, but that's really what it comes down to for me.
Is going first.
Is just going for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So like the friends of work,
Yep.
hobby,
Church, you name it. Yeah.
And it's like being the first one that says, "Hey,
Yep.
we should get together. You know,
Yep.
let's golf together. You know,
Yep.
like and those are actually like I think as a guy, like
Doing something.
Something is what I like. Hey, let's like mine is let's go for a run or a bike, and you're side by side for an hour. And it's really easy to like let the silence happen, you know.
Totally.
Like, same thing I'm guessing with golf, where
Golf's
it's like,
the same
hey,
way.
I hacked one in the woods. I'm gonna go by myself for a while, and then we'll come back and talk.
Yeah.
But you know,
well, I think anytime you're connecting with somebody, you want it to be easy.
yeah,
You know what I mean? I think that's probably the biggest thing.
yeah,
It might not always be, but you hope that it is, because it's supposed to be enjoyable and everything too.
yeah. Okay, lastly, letting yourself be known. This is a hard one. I think like I don't personally like this. I don't see this a ton like in other guys per se, but like as in letting your flaws, your letting people in on some of the struggles of life. Like, do you hate this? Like, is that hard for you? Like,
not easy.
Do you think it's necessary? And
I do.
Like, how do you think like you could encourage like other men or anybody, but like I think women are better at this, it seems.
For sure.
But is there something that you could think of that would like encourage men to be like, it's okay, you know, like to do that, to go a little deeper, let yourself be known?
Well, I think if you actually have real friendships, this is not hard. I think it's hard with surface relationships and even those acquaintances and things like that, because you don't want to look foolish sometimes, and especially as a man, I think. So, and I think I can be good at it in some settings, and other settings I really struggle.
Yeah. When you say like if you have real friends, like how would you assess that? Like
I would say the people that you can trust.
Okay.
You have to be able to. I think there's and I'll use life groups as an example, because I think over time when you're in a life group, it might be like there might be a difference between the first time you meet and the sixth time you meet.
Yeah.
And by the sixth time, if you're not able to at least express yourself a little bit, and people aren't understanding who you are, and be like, boy, I do suck at this.
Yeah.
You're not growing, and you're not going to be able to be part of that. Whereas the first time, you might be holding back a little bit, be like, I don't even know if I like these people yet. So I get that too.
But it's that development of trust of like,
correct.
They haven't judged me, or they haven't, you know, like they haven't completely said something that I don't agree with or whatever per se, where it's like you're just developing more trust, and I would say almost time. Like, so you develop a friendship off of time.
Yep.
If I'm piecing it together, so
that's correct.
Time helps.
Time helps.
Also,
stories help.
Yeah.
If one person shares, oftentimes the entire group is suddenly, oh, we're going there?
Yeah.
Okay. You know what I mean? It changes things.
Yeah, and I shared a little bit, like life groups particular, like I've had some that have been awesome, some that have been not.
Rough.
But like I really believe in the model of like that there is relationships there, and like if you don't get it the first time, second time even, like, keep trying.
You do.
Because eventually one or two of those couples usually is in the mix for a lot of them, and you can eventually get a little deeper, but I think it's that time, and sometimes it takes 2 years, you know, like time to get to that point with someone.
And some people are trusting the first meeting.
Yeah.
And some people might never be trusted.
Yeah.
Or you hope they get there at some point, and everybody's so different.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing. Thanks for like covering some conversation on how to develop friends. I hope that this is helpful. This was helpful for me. I hope this is helpful for other
great.
people. And so, yeah. Well, hopefully we keep getting better relationships as men.
I'm ready
and
for
as
some more
people.
friends.
So,
All right.
Yeah, it'd be
Let's
good.
go.
All right. Well, thanks.
Thanks.